We received news of the attack in Sekuru when we were on the coastal tour. And the attack was dastardly, cowardly. 8 people, innocent ones, were killed. One of them is actually daughter to my immediate neighbor at Muna in Sekuru. And some of them are even my distant relatives. We gather that that was a retaliatory attack because some other 4 young Somali people had been killed several days before that, and before that a young man had been killed, and that's why the Somalis were also killed. So you can see that cycle. This matter is heavy because those of you who may have read my book will know that I lived under those circumstances. And after 28 years of being Member of Parliament in that area, we had actually brought this kind of thing to an end. So that every Thursday, Somali herders were easily bringing lots of goats to the market in Sekuru, and became a wonderful interaction of communities fighting poverty together. But now criminals have come in between them, between the 2 communities. In fact, one of the things I remember with the late Mzee Moi, we took those army helicopters, went all the way to Sekuru, to Ngomeni, and we brought that nonsense to an end. And I remember Mzee Moi asking, mahali hawa maharamia wanatoka, kuna machief ama hakuna? Na nikisikia tena, hawa machief watapoteza kazi. He went on to establish GSU camp in Usweni. And even recently there was an attempt, I think, in Mandongoi, in Ngomeni area, to do something. I think when Ambassador, the security advisor, when Monica Juma was in charge of that docket, she tried to do something, establish some guideline of security arrangement. And I know that Governor Malombe has put in place some 6 police stations. All that needs to happen is to populate those police stations, because Governor Malombe does not control the police force. So Inspector Kanja Inspector General should help Governor Malombe populate immediately those 6 police stations put up by the county government of Kitui. But the killing of the young man in Ukasi is what seems to have brought a lot of fury, because a young man, 14-year-old, was that slashed to death. And this then raised the level of anger in Guni, in Ukasi, in Mwingi. For as long as I can remember, Mwingi town has never witnessed the kind of anger and fury that was evident yesterday. And we can understand all of this. But against all that background was, and I want somebody to give me that phone again, my phone, because C.S. Duale, in the presence of his boss in Mandera, issued a clear fiat. He said, us in opposition should never be allowed to cross the River Tana into Garissa. And if that happens, we should be assaulted. He says this in Kisomali, we got all the interpretation. We should be assaulted. We should never be allowed to go into northern Kenya, as if that territory belongs to Duale. We must remind him that Wajir, Garissa, Mandera are part and parcel of the Kenyan territory. Mwingi is part of the Kenyan territory. And no amount of tribal talk will now divide these 2 communities. What we are dealing with is an issue of criminals, and by now the police should have apprehended them. The ones who killed the 8 in Kwakamari, and the ones who slashed to death this young man should have quickly been apprehended.